All right, guys, so if you'll title your notes, we're going to be talking through the advanced level I can statement. So this one states that I can create a scientific notation math problem to satisfy a given answer. Okay, so we are going to give you either a multiplication or division problem that has some missing pieces. But as you can see, we already gave you the final answer. So we're going to work backwards. There should be a box there too. Guys, anytime you are given the answer and there's parts that are missing throughout the problem, if you work that problem backwards using the answer, you should be able to figure out the missing pieces. So let's talk about multiplying scientific notation. We know that if we were doing this problem, if we knew all of these numbers, we would take the two leading coefficients, 1.8, and whatever this number is. So we would take the 1.8 times the number we don't know. Over here in our answer, they're telling us that the answer to that problem is going to be 5.4. So we need to figure out what number times 1.8 would give us 5.4. Now, that's not any of the multiplication facts that we have memorized. So we should work this backwards. It's just like solving a one-step solution, a one-step equation. So we have 1.8 times some number equals 5.4. So if I want to solve for what I don't know, we're going to do the opposite. So if I divided away the 1.8, so I take the answer divided by what I do know, it'll give me what I don't know. So if I take 5.4 divided by 1.8, I get 3. Guys, you should check this. So what we're saying here is that this number right here should be 3. So let's check it. If this was the problem that I gave you, 1.8 times 3 should give us a new leading coefficient of 5.4. And we do. So then we need to do it with the exponents. Well, when we have the same base and it's a multiplication problem, I'm going to take the two exponents and I'm going to add them together. In this case, we know that when we add them together, we get the answer of 9. So what number plus 2 gets us to 9? Well, you can solve it like an equation, or hopefully you know that 9 minus 2 would give us 7. So it's pretty easy to go back through and fill in those missing pieces there. So the exponent would have been a 7, and the leading coefficient that we were missing would have been a 3. Okay, so let's do a division problem. Now the division problem, we're going to work it backwards the exact same way we did the multiplication problem, but it's a little bit more tricky, okay? So in order to figure out what our missing leading coefficient is, we would have had to have divided whatever number is in this box by 4 to get the number of 3. So I know that the opposite of division is multiplication. So I'm going to work this backwards and multiply 3 times 4, and 3 times 4 would be 12. Well, we know that 12 divided by 4 is 3, but we know that they would not have written 12 in that box because that's not a number that is written in scientific notation, okay? So the decimals right here on 12, they would have had to have moved the decimal, and they would have had 1.2. Now, when I take 1.2 and I divide it by 4, I don't get 3. I get 0.3. And that's okay because we know how to change it from 0.3 to 3 to get their final answer. But we're going to leave that alone for right now. Okay, so we know the leading coefficient is 1.2. So when they took 1.2 divided by 4, they got 0.3. Okay, so now we're going to find out what they would have had to get -9. Okay, so we know that if they had 0.3 to change it to 3, they would have had to subtract 1 from this exponent to get -9. So what number would have to be on this 10 in order to subtract 1 and get -9? Hopefully we know we could solve it like this even. So if I take -9 plus 1, it would be -8. So on this exponent right here, even though it's not in our final answer, that's what they would have had to have gotten when they took -12 minus their unknown. So -12 minus some number to get to -8. That's what we're trying to figure out. That's what we don't know. Now I know that -12 is smaller than -8. So they would have had to have subtracted another negative number to get to -8. You could have also solved this by setting up a two-step equation if you wanted to. And guys, on the division one, you might have to play around with the numbers a little bit more. But I know that -12 minus a -4 will get me to -8. Now guys, what I'm going to do now is I'm going to take the problem that I think that I have created correctly, and I'm going to go through and I'm going to solve it out. That's going to allow me to check to make sure I get the final answer. So this is the problem that I think that I should have used to get that final answer of 3 times 10 to the -9. So we're going to solve this problem out as if this was the only problem I gave you. So we would take 1.2 divided by 4, and we would take -12 minus a -4. So 1.2 divided by 4 is 0.3, and -12 minus a -4 is -8. But that's not what my final answer was, and that wouldn't be any final answer that you want to give me because I have to change that to scientific notation. So I would have to move the decimal, and since 0.3 was less than 1, we're going to subtract 1 from the exponent. So I get 3 times 10 to the -9th, which is what they wanted my answer to be in the beginning. So I know that my two missing numbers are 1.2 as the leading coefficient and -4 as the exponent. So there's a little bit more work involved on the division problem than the multiplication problem. All right, I'm going to give you one problem of each to try on your own, okay? And then you can come and get it checked by me if you would like, and I can tell you whether or not you're right, or we can talk through it if you need to, okay? All right, so try those two practice problems. Those are going to be our advanced level type of problems that you will see on the DCA whenever we take that. Okay, if you have any questions, don't hesitate to ask.